Happy Monday, everybody. We are back for silver, and it is Imola today. It's round 6 of silver season 6. So get your sixes and all your S's out. But there you go. Right, we're underway. We're in the lobby already. Good stuff indeed. It looks a bit overcast here in Imola, as it did in qualifying in gold last night. Go and watch that back after the silver stream, of course. Some fantastic racing, even from myself, I have to say, I have to admit. Yeah, I was only a very lucky few who managed to see that. But welcome along to the silver stream. We're going to have some action here in Imola tonight, as well as Nadim has left the session. Brilliant stuff. Good start to the session as well. There we go. We have got a couple of reserves in tonight. We'll go through them quickly now before we get underway for qualifying. It is Mumford in the AlphaTauri. We have also got Light in the Ferrari, Collins in the McLaren, and Nadim, who has just left the session in the Haas. Yeah, unfortunately, a couple of people having to, decided to take some time out to go and watch some horrible football game. Who cares about football when F1 is on, and F1 is here in ALR, and we are waiting for somebody to get themselves out on the track at the moment. Happy Monday to everybody in the stream as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome along to an exciting one here tonight. We're not going to get too exciting straight off the bat, because we're going to have to wait for the drivers to get themselves into gear and out onto the circuit. We have got some action there in the pit lane finally, yeah, welcome along to the stream, guys. And yeah, let's have a look and see what the action is going to be like here in silver. Like I said, we did have a bit of rain in gold last night. Let's have a look and see whether that's going to have some going to shine some light, or not shine some light, literally, on the track later on in the Grand Prix. Doesn't look like it's going to be too bad in qualifying. So yeah, we'll stay tuned to that one. But here we go then. Gino is coming out on track, but I think Craig R is the first man on track in the AlphaTauri, of course. Missed last week in Miami, but he's looking to set his sights on some points here in Imola as well tonight. Good stuff indeed. And Gino is the other one on track as well, just coming out of the pit lane now. But there we go then. Right, we're underway for the qualifying session. 16 minutes left in the session as well. Unfortunately, nobody was too keen to get out on track, were they? And I think that was there's Hostelman there 2 seconds, not 2 minutes. 2 minutes, I should say, in the beginning of the qualifying. Beast has retired. Of course, he's got a qualifying ban there from no footage there in Miami. So he has had to retire there and get himself sorted. He's got the setup on and ready for the race, but he'll be starting from the back of the grid. Will the ultimate beast? But let's see what he can do. We saw, of course, far from the back of the grid in Miami last week, from 20th on the grid as well, win the race. So can Beast replicate that form and get himself his first win of the season from the back of the grid? We'll have to wait and see. But first, we're going to have a look and see what Craig R can do as he rounds the final Ravazza to start off the first flying lap here in silver. As we've got a car on track there. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but he's managed to get himself out of the way of the AlphaTauri now. Heading down towards turn 1 and 2. Very tight chicane, very difficult to get it right, as well as he's looked like he's negotiated very nicely indeed. Good stuff from Craig R. And now on to the next phase of the lap there. Another chicane coming up, and he's trying to get that AlphaTauri pointed through very nicely indeed. Heading towards Toes, now the hairpin of the circuit, uphill hairpin as well. So making sure you get on the power right. He's always a bit squirrely there on the exit of the final corner, as Collins is retired as well. He's in the pit lane, so he's not got himself out on track either, unfortunately, for Collins. But here we go then. Craig R now heading down towards Aqua Minerale. The next few corners of this circuit is very important. It's very easy to get the car, or lose the time here, or get the car unsettled, but he's managed to keep the car very nicely controlled through there. And now into the final chicane. There's 3 around this circuit, if you didn't notice, and going purple, of course, in this sector 2. But of course, that is the first driver to set a time, or will be the first driver to set a time there in this session. So he's not going to be purple at this stage, of course. Now into the first Ravazza, and the second, the final corner of the circuit, going very wide there, but almost keeping it within track limits. Then up to the line, what can Craig R do? It is a 16.206 there from the first AlphaTauri driver. Good stuff indeed. Craig R is the first driver to set a time on the board. I think Jenner is the next driver to come across the line, but he's invalidated there on the final corner there, going wide over the curbs and unsettling the car, and that has cost him And he's into the pit lane, back into the pit lane, I should say, as Young Lights has retired as well. Young Lights, of course, he's starting from the back of the grid as usual because he's pretty quick indeed. So, yeah, didn't have a good chance to show his pace there in gold last night. Unfortunately, in the beginning of the race, he had an incident there which cost him his place in the race. But, yeah, we'll have to hope and see that we can do something. He can do a bit of a Ferrari masterclass there from both Young Lights and Beast there, who are going to be starting from the back of the grid. Let's have a look and see who's going to be next across the line. Reflection, unfortunately, has invalidated his lap time. Let's have a look and see what Sweet MJP is up to. He's going through sector 2 now. Dopey Lemons is right behind him as well, but let's have a look and see who's going to be the next across the line, because I can't find out who that driver is. It's Gordo there just starting his lap off, and I think it's going to be Mumford now coming through this second Ravazza here, the final corner, once again in the other AlphaTauri, of course. And let's have a look and see what this AlphaTauri can do. Up to the line, it's at 15.837 there, puts himself comfortably in pole position for the time being, 4 tenths or so ahead of his teammate currently, where there's only 2 drivers yet to set a time in the lobby, in the session I should say, and hopefully Nadeem can get himself back in the car as well, because he's not been able to get himself back in the session just yet as well, because that could be 4 drivers already out of qualifying before we even got into the race, that is. So we'll have to wait and see if that can we can rectify that situation there. Nadeem needs to get himself back in that Haas car, and he has joined just back as I was saying that, so it must have been not a curse of the commentator on that occasion. It was a delight of the commentator. I don't know how you pronounce that, or how you would phrase that, I should say. Vitor coming through the first Ravazza, going very wide there, and that might have cost him a bit of time there. Now through the second, and now up to the line there, all on the power. DRS is activated for that very short few meters there to the finish line, and it's a 15.972 for Vitor there, splitting splitting Mumford and Sweet MJP. I didn't see Sweet MJP set his time there, but he has got himself a time on the board there, 16.1. Gordo's gone faster still with a 15.4. Fantastic stuff from the Red Bull driver there. He's had an upturn in form there, has Gordo, and it's looking good indeed for the Red Bull driver, getting himself back in the groove and back on the circuit. Looking good indeed. Dylan there into P2 there with a 15.6. That is the other AlphaTauri, of course, the championship leader there of Dylan, into P2 for the time being. Mr. Elite there with a 15.5. The Red Bulls are on fire here. Look at this. The Red Bulls are looking to get themselves back on top here, it looks like, in Imola as well. Good stuff indeed from Mr. Elite and Gordo as well. So good stuff from both of those drivers. Let's have a look and see who's going to be next across the line. I don't think anybody's out on a lap at this stage, apart from the drivers there who are just coming back into the pit lane. Gino just started his lap now as well, as he heads down towards the first chicane. Hello from Gordo, and Pot Stuff says, evening all, come on Haas boys, getting up, come on and Sweet MJP. So unfortunately for one of the Haas, well, he has got himself back in the session as Nadeem. Jinner there is looking to get himself a first time on the board. He had to invalidate, well, he did invalidate his first run on the medium compound tyres, and he had to abandon his lap there. He had to come back to the pit lane. But let's see what he can do. He's going purple there in sector 1. Is that going to be promising there? Can he get himself ahead of those Red Bull drivers who are looking pretty good indeed on form here tonight? Now down towards Aqua Minerale there for the Haas driver, negotiating through that right-hander, which is very treacherous indeed if you get on those curbs, but he's managed to get himself just outside of those outside of the range of that sausage curve that can really spit you off. But now through the final chicane there, and now it's just about power there to the line, getting your braking point right for the first Ravazza, because that can really help you into the second Ravazza as well. And now down the hill we go there towards that first Ravazza, into the final turn, and here we go then for Jenna there around the final turn, this time not so squirrely there on the power, and not on the curb as much as well on the exit. And now up to the line, it is P4 for Jenna there, 15.641. Puts himself comfortably there on the second row of the grid as it stands at the moment. They're not too far away from Dylan as well. Didn't expect that one, says Gordo there. I think he's talking about his fantastic qualifying lap indeed. Hopefully that he can keep that up in the rest of the qualifying as well. 10 minutes left of the session, and we will see what he can do. Unfortunately, V Todd there has invalidated his time. He's done a 15.9 there, puts himself comfortably into P6 for the time being. But we'll have to wait and see. There's a few drivers still to set a time in this session. But yeah, V Todd there looking for a bit of an upturn in form as well, really, for V Todd. He's not had, he's only had 1 point scoring appearance, that is, and that was in Bahrain there, that singular point thereafter. He did a very mammoth stint indeed on the hard compound tyres to try and get himself to the end there. And of course, some people there pitting behind had gone faster. But here comes Tango there with a much faster time indeed, a 14.954, 4.5 I should say, get it right. But he has got himself on pole position as it stands by by almost half a second there from the Aston Martin driver. What a fantastic lap time indeed there from Tango. That is looking very comfortable indeed for pole position as it stands, and I don't think there'll be many drivers there in the pit lane there that are going to be raising a few eyebrows about that one. Maybe need to check Tango's hard drive. And that's a very good joke indeed. If you remember back to when Tango was racing in gold and he had those hard drive issues, that is absolutely corker from myself, I have to say. What a joke indeed. That was a great banter. It really was. Mumford, they're just setting off on her lap as well. Reflection is on track. Let's have a look and see what Reflection. I think he's coming back to the pit lane. He has done a 16.0, so that has put himself into P8 for the time being, which is good stuff indeed. Ewok is on the track as well. Let's have a look and see when Nadim is coming through into the final couple of corners. Here he is there in the Haas. Hopefully he can stay in the session long enough to set a time on the board. What's it going to be from Nadim? It's P2 with a 15.299. Very good stuff indeed from the Haas driver, of course, reserving tonight in place of Pot Stuff. So yeah, Pot Stuff there was in the comments there earlier. He was supporting the Haas boys and of course Sweet MJP, and looking like one of the Haas boys is doing a good job there. Jinner's doing a good job as well in P6 as well, but unfortunately for Sweet MJP, he's down in P11 at the moment, but that's not where he wants to be and not where we've seen him before, and we will see hopefully that he can get himself back up the order there, a bit further up the order that we're more familiar with from the Williams driver as well. Here comes Ewok now into the final chicane. They're negotiating that very nicely there. Brilliant stuff indeed. It looked very fast indeed from the Williams driver as well. Now down the hill towards the first Ravazza in car number 3. There seems to be a few car number 3s there on the grid, so I'm not quite sure if there's something going wrong there. Kamara Racer puts himself up into P3 there in the other Aston Martin. It's looking like a 1-3 at the moment for Aston Martin, but Ewok there abandoning his lap time and coming into the pit lane there. So interesting stuff indeed. Not quite sure why he needed to do that, why he couldn't set himself a time on the board, but we will come back to that one for Ewok. Here comes Brabbit now through the final chicane there in the Mercedes Mobile, and let's see what the Mercedes driver can do. Of course, one Mercedes there currently in P11 there with a 16.0. Can he get himself further up the order? Of course, Brabbit is challenging for the title, albeit he's a bit far back at the moment. Well, not too far back, but he's a bit further adrift there from the title challengers as it stands. They're currently in P3 in the standings, but up into P2 there on the grid as it stands there with a 14.982. He is less than half a tenth behind Tango there on pole position. He's currently on the front row there in P2, but great lap time indeed there. These times are tumbling in now, and unfortunately we thought Gordo there might have the precedent there, but unfortunately it seems to be going back in the favour of the championship, well, the higher drivers up in the championship for the time being, that is. But we do like some upsets, don't we? And we will see some upsets, I think, here in Imola tonight there. Mr. Ali, they're coming up to the line. Can he improve on his time? He has improved to a 15.3, puts himself into P4, and I think Mumford is in the pit lane there. I'm not quite sure who just crossed the line. Somebody crossed the line, I think. I'm not quite sure who it was at all, but there we go. It was Sweet MJP, there we go. Perfect stuff. Sweet MJP does improve there to P7 there with a 15.447 up into P7 as well. Good stuff. Tango said that they were tyres from my first run, so not bad on the second lap, says Tango as well. So yeah, so Tango had done 2 runs there on those soft compound tyres there to get himself that fantastic lap time still indeed. So very good stuff from the Aston Martin driver, and looking good for the Aston Martins as it stands here in qualifying as well. Dylan there needs to improve, so does Jinner as well. These two, of course, they did fight for the podium there in Miami last week, and now we'll be fighting to try and keep himself in the top 10 at this stage of the qualifying. There's still 5 minutes to go. There's still time there for both these drivers to improve. Let's have a look and see what Jinner can do as he comes down the hill. Is there an Alpine there in the way? That might get a bit dodgy though if that Alpine doesn't get out of the way, but he has got himself going anyway. So I think it's V Todd there just getting around the final corner there. Here comes the Haas now, but a little bit of a tow as well from the Alpine maybe down towards the checkered flag or the finish line, and Jinner there puts himself into P3. So both the Haas's there locking out the second row of the grid as it stands. Jinner with a 15.0 there. He's only a tenth and a bit away from pole position as well. That is good stuff indeed from Jinner. Looking confident there in the Haas there. The other Haas in P4 of Nadim there on another outlap as well. Let's have a look and see what Dylan can do. He's invalidated, unfortunately, has Dylan there into, well, earlier on in the lap there, he's coming down into the second Ravazza now. But unfortunately, Alfa Romeos, they're not having a great time in this stage of qualifying at this, in this last few minutes, I should say, as we've got less than 5 minutes left now. Here comes V Todd there on a lap. And he needs to get himself another 3 or 4 tenths or so to get himself in the top 10 now in the Alpine. Let's see what he can do. Farf is on a lap as well. He's a bit further back from V Todd though. As here we go down the hill once again. My voice is going. Yeah. And into the first Ravazza, and now the second Ravazza there to try and stump up the Alpine, but he can't be stumped there, can V Todd? And up to the line, what's it going to be from V Todd? Has he improved? He has improved, but he's not been able to displace any drivers there. He stays P13 for the time being with the 15.834. Farf is back in the pit lane. He's abandoned his time. He's invalidated his time. That is why Ewok has still stayed in the pit lane as well. He's not come back out just yet after that one run, and my headset keeps trying to fall off as well. Bear me 1 second whilst I try and sort this headset. Blimey. There we go. Craig R is back out on circuit looking to improve now on his 16.2. He was the first driver, of course, to set a time in this session, and now is looking like one of the last drivers there to get himself back out on the back out of the pit lane to do his second run. And let's see what he can do now in the AlphaTauri. He needs to improve by at least 8 tenths or so, I would say, to get himself into the top 10 comfortably. So let's see what he can do now through Aqua Minerale as well, and up the hill towards the the final chicane, I should say. Let's see what his Sector 2 time is going to say. He is half a second up. That is looking good indeed. That will definitely get him ahead of V Todd there in P13. And now he just needs to make sure he keeps it clean through the first and second Ravazzas as we go down the hill once again for the millionth time. It feels like, anyway, as Kamara Racer has put himself up into P3. I've missed Kamara Racer, sorry, in this qualifying session so far. We will definitely be coming back to Kamara Racer very soon. As here comes Craig R. They're up to the line. What's it going to be from him? It's a 15.5. Puts himself P11 there for the time being, and gets ahead of both the Alfa Romeos there. Not having a great qualifying so far, Dylan and Dopey Lemons there in this stage of the qualifying. They've only got a few minutes left as well, as here comes Mumford there back out on track. Mumford there over the curbs there. That might have cost him a little bit of time there through the first chicane, and now heading down towards. Is there going to be some teamwork here from Craig R and Mumford potentially here? Maybe a bit of a tow down a straight somewhere, but the only place you can get a good tow is down the main straight, really, isn't it? That is the only DRS zone as well, and the only really overtaking spot, I suppose you could say, as well in this very famous, very historic circuit as well. But it's not designed or not got a very friendly design for overtaking, I suppose you could say, especially not in the rain, as we found out yesterday in Gold. Although the Gold drivers then put on a show anyway and put the overtakes on nonetheless. But here is Mumford now coming through the final chicane, and we've got yellow flags there waving, I think, for a Williams driver, as we've got Craig R off the circuit as well. That is pretty dangerous stuff from Craig R, but he's got himself back underway. Here we go then now into the first Ravazza once again for Mumford, and the second Ravazza as well, making sure you don't go too wide and don't get too squirrely on that curve on the exit. He hasn't done, and now up to the line. It's going to be a 15.0 there, puts himself P4 and up onto the second row, I should say. Good stuff indeed. Is he going again though? It looks like he's still trying to push on there in the Alfa Tauri. He's not got enough time to come back to the pit lane now. I think this is the last few runs there of the session now for most of these drivers. We'll come back to Mumford as well. Gordo there has invalidated his time, but he's just about to set himself underway. Reflection has retired in the pit lane. He's P7 at the moment, as has Kamara Racer, who's retired in the pit lane as well. So those drivers, they're not being able to get themselves back out on track in time. And here comes Gordo. Oh, sorry, that's Mr. Elite. Here comes Gordo. So because go back to the right driver. We'll have to wait and see. Craig R is back out on circuit. He's a bit further along. Where is Dylan there? Dylan coming through the final chicane there. He's not had a good run through that final chicane. It didn't look like we just caught the end of that there. But not quite sure if Dylan's having a bit of trouble here in Imola. It seems like that Alfa Romeo is not too happy around this circuit at this stage. Maybe it's more set up for the race. We'll have to wait and see, as we have seen somebody jump up the order as well. Here comes Dylan though up to the line. It's P6 for Dylan. It's Dopey Lemons, who was his teammate, who jumped up the order ahead of him, and both the Alfa Romeos, I should say, have jumped up to P6 and P7 respectively, with some good improvements there. Gordo's retired, I think, on track as well, out of Aqua Minerale. That is a big smash there for what car is in? Red Bull driver, that is. But it's been cleared away before we can get to it there. Brabbit there coming through now. now to finish off Sector 2 and going purple in Sector 2 as well. This is looking good indeed for Brabbitt if he can keep hold of this time as well. This is looking fantastic and stuff. Fantastic stuff indeed for Brabbitt as well. Round the last few corners we got to go as we come down the hill once again. Car number 5 this time, not car number 3. As into the first Ravazza we go. Second Ravazza coming up now, and now a shootout to the line, or a sprint to the line literally, as we cross the DRS line, and now across the finish line. It's pole position there for Brabbitt there, a 14.579. Good stuff indeed. Nadeem there comes across the line to go P2 with a 14.8. Good stuff from him. But Tango is still out on track now, coming all round the second Ravazza. He's lost control of the car, but can he improve still? He could improve still. He's not improved, unfortunately, so he stays P3, but that was a bit of a mistake there from Tango there on the final corner there. That cost him, I think, pole position in this race, or at the start of this race, that is, of course. Yeah, we haven't got it. It's not been all ticked off and confirmed just yet. Mr. Elite's invalidated his time. V. Todd is still on track, coming round the second Ravazza as well now. Can he improve? Can he get himself in the top 10 for V. Todd? Dylan's retired in the pit lane. That is Dylan starting P8 or no better. And V. Todd there improves to P14. Farf is down in P15. Ewok up to the line. Can he improve? No, it's P16 for Ewok. And we've got Jinner there coming up to the line now. Can he displace any of the drivers ahead of him? He can. He's up into P4. And that is Jinner there onto the second row of the grid. Nadeem, in P2. Great stuff indeed from Nadeem. But Brabbitt is your pole sitter here in Imola for tonight's race. There we go then. That is your qualifying order there for the start of this Grand Prix, which will be coming up in just a few minutes' time, of course, there. Brabbitt there on pole position with a fantastic lap time. He's almost 3 tenths, not 3 seconds, ahead of second place from Nadeem in P2 there. Tango on the second row. Unfortunately for Tango there, that mistake, I think, at the second Ravazza, the final corner, cost him on exit there. Jinner into P4, Sweet MGP P5, Kamara Racer in P6, Mumford in P7, Dylan in P8, Dopey Lemons in P9, Reflection is in P10. Just outside the top 10, we've got Mr. Elite. We've got both the Red Bulls, actually, P11 and P12. Mr. Elite and Gordo. Craig R in P13. V. Todd, P14. 15 for Rafaf. Ewok in P16. Young Lights, Collins, Beast, and Irvine there didn't get a time in. So both the McLarens and the Ferraris starting at the back of the grid, which is going to be interesting stuff indeed for both those drivers. Can they get themselves, both those teams, I should say, can they get themselves through the order as we get ourselves ready for the start of this Grand Prix? Gordo was saying it was on such a good lap. It is raining like hell here in Imola. We didn't expect that coming. Nobody gave us a warning there in the comment section. Shame on you. But there we go. We have got a heavy wet race, it looks like, to start with at least. And that is going to be treacherous conditions there to get yourself around that circuit. Having said that, it wasn't too bad with the dry setup yesterday. So fingers crossed the drivers can negotiate it as well enough, but it is much wetter in these conditions there. It looks like the definitely the wet tyres will be on the cars from the start of the race. We only had the intermediates in gold last night. So, yeah, it's not as it is much worse, these conditions here in the Silver Grand Prix. But we'll get ourselves underway. It's going to be an exciting start, I would imagine, because these conditions do play into a few incidents and a few action points, let's say it that way. But there we go then. Wet race there from Collins there. A bit too late, though, because we already see that. But there we go then. The cars are lined up on the grid. Apologies, my voice is going, I think. But there we go. We are on the wet compound tyres, at least for the top runners. But we'll go through the grid order in just a moment there. Jesus says lights. And, wow, I'm glad not to be there, says Pot Stuff as well. And that's nice indeed. Well, no, it should be a good race indeed, and this is going to indefinitely open up as Brabbitt has gone off the where's he gone? He's disappeared off into the distance there as Brabbitt, the race leader, the pole sitter, of course. Yeah, like I was saying, this is definitely going to lend itself to some interesting opening few laps, I'd imagine. So this is going to be one hell of a start to this Grand Prix, and I'm looking forward to it. But I'm not sure the admin, Smithy, of course, is going to be looking forward to it. Everybody is on the wet compound tyres there from P1 to P20. I'll run through the grid order in just a jiffy, but Yeah, this is going to be an interesting start, I'd have to say. I think this could be a bit of a messy start as well, because that braking point into turn one in the dry is difficult when you've got all 20 drivers piling into that corner. It's going to be one hell of a challenge for all the drivers there to try and get through in these conditions. So stay tuned. This is going to be an epic start to this Grand Prix. And there we go. Right then, Irvine there is starting P20 there in the McLaren there, Beast in P19 in the Ferrari, Collins in P18 in the McLaren, the other McLaren I should say, and Light in P17 there. So there's a bit of a McLaren-Ferrari battle there from the back of the grid. Ewok in P16 there in the Williams. Then we've got both the Alpines of Farf and V Todd there in P15 and 14 respectively there. Craig R in P13, Gordo and Mr. Elite, both the Red Bulls just outside the top 10 there, P12 and P11 there. Reflection has got himself in the top 10 for the Mercedes driver, so that's one Mercedes driver in the top 10 and the other one on pole position. Dopey Lemons there in P9, Dylan in P8 there in the Alfa Romeos, and then we've got Mumford there in P7 on his own. There's no teammate around him unfortunately at the moment. Aston Martin for Kamara Racer in P6 there, Sweet MJP in P5, and then on the second row of the grid we've got Jenner there in the Haas, Tango in the Aston Martin there, looking to be getting himself further up the order there. Could have got pole position I think, potentially in that qualifying session, but there we go. Nadeem there in second there on the front row of the grid there in the Haas, and Brabbit is your pole sitter here for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Silver tonight. This is going to get exciting, says Serious Mushroom. I think it will be, and I hope I get a better camera angle than this as well, because this is not very good indeed. Come on then, let's have a look and see, as we're just waiting for the Ferrari I think to get himself back on the grid, and we can get ourselves underway there for the start of this race, but we aren't going to get a good angle I don't think. We'll have to see what is going on here. I just want to see the drivers at the top here. The 5 red lights are off in Imola, and away we go for, are we going? Away we go for the start of the Grand Prix. It's a virtual safety car. So I'm not quite sure. No driver should be overtaking there at this stage. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. A virtual safety car to start off this race. Maybe it is too wet there for the start of this Grand Prix, and that the FIA have thrown the virtual safety car out just to make sure the drivers can get through safely. Not very much for Sweet MJP though. He was all over the curbs there, even with the VSC out. Yeah, not sure what happened there. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. VSC is out, so no overtaking at this stage of the Grand Prix. We're only on the first lap because the VSC came out straight away there from the lights going out. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there. We will have to wait and see. Very sorry about the cough. But it's just, well, it's not really a cough. I think it's just my voice is going. I can feel it going already. But we only just started the first lap, so it's going to be completely gone by lap 32, I think, especially in these conditions. Yeah, like I said, the VSC is going to be out for a little while, I think, as well. As what's happened to Craig R? Craig R is off the circuit. Craig R is gone. And he's had a spin under the VSC, and I think it's going away now. I think it's going to be time for the VSC to go. I'm not sure if there was a bit of a helping hand there for Craig R, but he's had a problem there under that under the yellow flags. We are racing here in Imola now for the first time. This is in the race. We're only halfway through the lap, but or over halfway through the lap. But Brabbit there leads us away there from Nadeem and Tango there in P3. We had a rolling start here in Silver, and yeah, I suppose the FIA just felt it was time. It was time to try to sort that out, and it was maybe too wet there for the start of this race. But there we go then. Dopey Lemon's getting himself past Kamara Racer for P6 here in this in the opening lap, really, because we haven't really had the opening lap just yet. As we go down towards turn 1, the timing sheets are all over the place as well. We're not 1 minute 40 behind for Nadeem. We're only about a few tenths of a second, but there we go. Tango in P3 for the time being. Ginner there trying to keep pace there. He's dropped off the back of this battle massively. I'm not sure if there was an issue there for MJP under the VSC, but he's now he's now under pressure from Dopey Lemons, who's got himself passed into P5. Kamara Race has gone through as well, up into P6 there. Swim MJP's got some problems, I think, in that on that Williams car, as Dylan is now all over the back of him as well. Up the hill we go towards Sector 2, and now the Swift, he's being swamped here by all the drivers there. What's going on there for the Williams driver? He's had a massive problem. It looks like a massive problem indeed. He's dropping down the order. He's really all over the place as well, and he's got now Reflection of Mr. Elite right behind him as well into Aqua Minerale. No moves being made. Sorry about this. I better go get a drink, I think. Well, here comes Reflection now down towards the final chicane. Can he go around the outside here? It's going to be difficult stuff indeed, but he's got the move done, has he? Just about. I think he's got himself through. Dopey Lemons and Kamara Racer battling away earlier up, further up the order. Mumford and Dillon switching places as well for P7. And yes, Swimmer P is really struggling. Young Light's up 7 places. Favre is into P11, and he's got himself ahead there of Reflection and Mr. Elite. Mr. Elite and Reflection battling away, and Mr. Elite's backed off there. He's had to get himself away from the Mercedes for the time being, and we get ourselves through. And I think now we can see the timing deltas all sort themselves out as well, as Swimmer P is really struggling in these wet conditions as well. Look at this. The Young Lights is already up into P9 there. Favre coming through as well. Swimmer P is really having to back off here. And what's happened to that? He's on the right tyres. He's the only thing I can explain really, or can think of it could be an explanation as well, is all VTOD there going off into the gravel trap and trying to keep the car going there, but he's going to be under pressure now from Craig R, who was trying to get himself back in this race there after that difficult start, or that spin of the VSC. Mr. Elite is back in the pit lane. What's happened to Gordo as well? Gordo's carrying on. I think have they made a pit stop? No stops for Gordo there. Unfortunately, he's had a problem there somewhere, has Gordo. But Mr. Elite is into the pits there. He's coming back out now onto the wet compound tyres again. And he's almost cut across the pit lane as Dopey Lemons has had a spin. Where's Dopey Lemons? He's off the circuit there at the top of the hill. And he's, unfortunately for Dopey Lemons there, it's going really well actually, that start. He was up into P5 at one point. He's now down into P15. And unfortunately, that is bad news indeed for the Alfa Romeo outfit. Dylan is off the circuit as well, trying to battle with Irvine. Irvine's just driven off the circuit himself. What's going on for Irvine as well? These conditions are really causing havoc for the Silver drivers, and it is not looking good indeed for some of them as well. Out in the front though, Brabham has got himself a 1.2 second gap, so it's looking alright for some people, but not so much for others. Swimmer P is lost out to Favre by almost a second, and now is under pressure from Reflection as well. Brabham sets the fastest lap of the race there. He's looking good indeed so far. The gaps at the front are splitting up a bit more as well, as we've got more action down behind, as Ewok has been passed by both Craig R and Dopey Lemons there in that one corner, and down to P16 goes the Williams driver. Reflection getting himself past Swimmer P. There's no speed there in that Williams, unfortunately for Swimmer P. What is happening there to the Williams driver? He's had a great run of form there in the last couple of races, but he's not having any luck here in the Italian state of Emilia-Romagna right now. Anyway, Kamara Racer has got himself the first time penalty of the race. Oh no, he hasn't. Collins has already got one as well. Sorry about that. But he has got the first time penalty for the top 10 drivers there. He's 5 seconds behind the top 4 as well. That is a pretty big gap there to make up there. He's got 5.6 seconds to try and gain. He's got Mumford all over the back of him as well. Young Lights is up into P7. We need to get we'll hit the position changes up, because we know what everyone's tyres are. Everyone's on the wet compound tyres if you've already just joined us. Well, only just joined us. Everyone's on the wet compound tyres after a very difficult start, but it looks like it's drying out. And is it time already for the intermediate? Maybe not, judging by that screen. But is it time already, I was going to say, for the intermediate compound tyres? We might see the intermediates come back into this race very soon indeed. It's only been 4 laps. Of course, we had the first lap behind a VSC as well. So, yeah, interesting stuff indeed there from Codemasters. But there we go then. How can Jenner be 1 minute and 35 seconds behind already? I don't think he is. Yeah, Jenner is in P4 at the moment. He's only 1.2 seconds behind. So I think it's just because, I think it's just because of the timing screens or whatever it was after that VSC. Here comes Mumford on the Aston Martin of Kamara Racer. He's already through. He's passed before the heavy braking zone there of turn 1. He's got himself up the order there. Into P5 has Mumford. Good stuff indeed from him. Down the order of Craig R is getting past Irvine, and can he get a look? Can he line up a move there on Dopey Lemons as well into turn 1? It's too far back there for the AlphaTauri driver, but he's done a good job there of recovering so far in this race after that spin under the VSC, put him right to the back there by about 7 seconds. So it's not all doom and gloom for Craig R. He's got some good pace there in the AlphaTauri there tonight. So that is interesting to see. We've got the battle down at the back really here for these laps here as well. Mr. Elite sets the fastest lap of the race there. Gordo's got himself past Collins. Collins there slotting in behind the Red Bull driver there. Of course, the Red Bull driver had a problem, I think, because he hasn't made a pit stop, has he? Only driver to make a stop is Mr. Elite, and that was a forced change, I think, for a wing and a new set of wet compound tyres. He's 18 seconds back now off the grid, off the rest of the grid, that is. But yeah, unfortunately, he's trying to get himself back in this race, and we might see some safety cars, some more VSCs, etc. there as we get ourselves into this race, because this weather is going to need some concentration to try and get yourself through this Grand Prix. And we've only done 5 laps so far, on to the 5th lap, I should say, right now. But there we go, Irvine and Craig R into the final chicane. That is dodgy stuff indeed. That's not where you want to be battling side by side. and Greygar's lost out to both the Williams and the McLaren as well as we go down the hill. Tango's in the pit lane. Tango's in the pits. What's going to be the strategy here? I think it's not a scheduled, well, it is a scheduled stop, I suppose. It's not a unscheduled stop for a wing change, I don't think. Into the pit lane he's on to the intermediate compound tyres, so an early call there. Farf is also in, so is Dylan as well, and I think the intermediates might be the tyre to go on to now. Already only 6 laps in, and Farf is back underway. Tango coming out the pit lane now. He's going to be down in P15, and Gordo's going to come through as well, potentially, and get that spot off of him, but of course Gordo's on the wet compound tyres. If it's switching to the intermediates now, then that means that it's going to be much faster on those intermediates than it is going to be on the wet compound tyres in the next few corners, in the next few seconds, I should say. Mr. Elite's got a 5-second mark. Speeding in the pit lane, unfortunately, for Mr. Elite. That's going to be added to his race time if he doesn't stop again, but he might have to stop again at this rate because it's very early stops indeed there for the intermediate. We'll switch now onto the tyre compounds because we've got some drivers there switching up the strategies and going for the intermediate compound tyres there. 4 drivers down onto the intermediates as we get ourselves underway in this Grand Prix, and we've only had 5 laps of actual green flag running just because of that VSC, but it's been pretty epic so far. And like I said, Serious Mushroom was saying telling me to get a drink, but I think I've got my voice back somehow. It's somehow just coming back to me as we've got the epic racing there unfolding. I think I needed some epic racing to get me voice underway, and here comes Tango there to try and get himself past Gordo there, and with ease that Aston Martin goes through, and I think that just shows the intermediate compound tyres are the best to be on as well. It's sector 2 purple as well for the Aston Martin. That is promising stuff indeed, and I think that is the call. This is the call. This is the time now for the rest of the drivers there on the wet compound tyres to get themselves into the pit lane. Young Lights is in the pits as well. Nobody else has come into the pit lane so far from the top 10, so interesting stuff indeed. Dopey Lemons is coming in now, and he is getting himself sorted as well. Craig, can he get that car slowed down? He has done just about. VTOD as well got themselves into the pit lane. And this could be crucial because of course, if they're getting an undercut there on the drivers there who's staying out on the wet compound tyres, they're just going to be faster on those intermediates for the next couple of laps, and those who stay out on the wet are going to get slower and slower and be eaten up by the those who've made an early pit stop as well. So this could be good. This could be interesting stuff indeed for the drivers there who are currently going onto the intermediate compound tyres very early indeed. Tango, of course, was the first driver to get themselves into the pit lane from P3 on the grid. He's going purple in sector 1. This is showing that the intermediates are definitely the right tyre to be on right now, and going through Tozer now. That Aston Martin is looking good indeed, and I think he's looking like he's going to be claiming the lead of this Grand Prix as well, potentially, with this pace as it stands at the moment, of course. And if those drivers on the wet compound tyres ahead of him stay out as well, the top 10 all on the wet compound tyres. Collins as well in P13 all on the wet compound tyres. It's definitely changing now to the intermediates. It started on full wets. It's now time for the intermediate compound tyres, and we need to get ourselves through the next couple of laps to see who's going to be coming in the pits. Brabbett's in the pit lane now as well. Is Nadeem staying out there on the wet compound tyres? Jinner's got to come in the pits, so surely then, and that's a pit stop there for Jinner. They're going to get himself slowed down. No, he can't. Oh wait, he's got a 3-second penalty, I think. There, Mumford's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits as well. And I think somebody else got a penalty too. Young Light's got a 3-second penalty as well. So all the penalties now coming in as well at this stage of the Grand Prix too, as Ewok is back in the pit lane. Irvine's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well. That is bad news indeed for him. Here comes Tango though. Tango, can he get himself ahead of Brabbit now with that extra stop, or the extra couple of laps there on the intermediate compound tyres? He's up into a net P1 with a fantastic strategy call there from the Aston Martin driver. Good stuff indeed. He's done 2 laps extra on those intermediate compound tyres compared to Brabbit though, but Favre now up into P5 as well. That is a net P3, I think. Dylan sets the fastest lap of the race there, and get himself up the order as well with some more pit stops for the drivers behind. But that has really spiced it up a bit, hasn't it? We'll have a look at the penalty situation as well, because there's 5 seconds for Jinner, 5 seconds for Mumford, and 5 seconds for Irvine as well, as Irvine and Craig are battling away once again, and Craig has got himself through. I think Craig has done an extra couple of laps there on those tyres. That is, well, an extra lap I should say, because he's got himself through and heated up those intermediates a bit more than those runners. They're coming out the pit lane as it stands there. Mr. Elite has got himself past Collins in the pit lane. Dopey Lemons and Swim JP battling away. Swim JP's not had much luck in this Grand Prix so far, has he? We're only a quarter of the way through as well. So there's still plenty to go. But and hopefully my voice can last for the rest of the Grand Prix. But Swim JP has really been struggling there in these wet conditions. Maybe didn't have the car set up for these wet conditions off the start of the race, which is why he's struggling so hard. But yeah, big shame indeed for Swim JP. He did qualify in P5. Of course, now the top two, or the next, or the old top two, I should say, you could say, are now in the pit lane. Nadim and Kamara Racer. Tango sets the fastest lap of the race. Tango is going to be flying through and easily takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Same for Brabham as well. Where will Kamara Racer and Nadim come out? Nadim's going to come out, I think, just ahead of this pack potentially. It's going to be close indeed, as Collins picks up a 3-second penalty, unfortunately for Collins. Nadim comes out in P3. That Kamara Racer is much further back, and there's pit lane is very long indeed as well, isn't it? Kamara Racer is going to be out behind the Ferrari of Ultimate Beast there, and potentially under threat there from Dylan as well as we go down towards turn 1. Is he going to get himself ahead there in the Alfa Romeo? No, he has to sit in behind there. Kamara there comes out in P10 and trying to get those intermediate compound tyres warmed up as quickly as possible, because that Alfa Romeo is going to be all over the back of him now for the rest of this lap at least, and he has lost out. Unfortunately, there has Kamara Racer big time indeed actually to the rest of the order there. He was up in the mid points there, wasn't he? But he's now down in P10 there, unfortunately, after that late stop there, and needed to get into the pits, I think, a bit earlier than he did in the end. Jinner there is in P5. He's all over the back of Farf. And Farf with a good, with an optimal strategy call there. Of course, he pit on the same lap as Tango. And Tango there has got himself the lead of the Grand Prix with that extra strategy. Oh my goodness me! Oh dear, that was contact from both those drivers, I think, and that was not how to do that chicane. In a nutshell, that is. It's Mumford and Young Lights. They're both the reserves here tonight in the AlphaTauri and Ferrari, respectively. As Tango set the fastest lap of the race, going down into first for Vatsa. No moves being made there just yet, as Tango's got a 2-second gap now ahead of Brabham there. Of course, the tyre wear as well might come in, or maybe not necessarily the wear around here, but necessarily the temperatures, I suppose you could say, as we got moves there. Gino's got himself past Farf there into the first chicane, and I think we saw Young Lights getting, no, it wasn't Young Lights, was it? Because Mumford is getting himself past Young Lights instead. Wrong way round for me, but right way round for Mumford there. He's up into P6 now and trying to chase down the top 5 as well. Reflection has joined this battle as well. Good stuff from Reflection. He's done a good job there in this race so far. He's kept it clean and calm, and he's got himself into P8 there comfortably as well. Now on the back of 2 fast drivers as well, so he could get himself pulled along potentially. We'll have to wait and see. 300p has lost out to Craig R as well. Craig R got himself back up into P13 where he started there after that difficult opening 9 laps, I suppose you could say. He's gone purple in sector 1 as well. That is looking good indeed for Craig R. He's got the car maybe set up there for these intermediate conditions, and hopefully he can push on now and maybe get himself onto the edge of the points. There's penalties for the drivers ahead of him as well, so that could pull himself into the top 10 at the end of this Grand Prix. There's still time for Craig R to get himself some points on the board. He's the only driver, I think, or one of the only drivers. I think there might be only a couple in silver there to not have any points on the board so far in these opening 5 races so far we've had, but we've got the 6th race underway right now. Yeah, that is interesting stuff indeed. Figure that out. Wow. You're watching it. Good stuff. Reflection all over the back of Young Lights. Young Lights dropped off from Mumford massively there, and I think maybe Young Lights is having some struggles as well. Here comes Reflection now onto the main straight there, and we've gone the wrong camera angle, the wrong car, but here comes Reflection now getting himself past the Ferrari, up into P7 now for Reflection, and that is looking good indeed. Oh, it was very close indeed from Young Lights there on the back of that Mercedes there through the first chicane, but he's managed to keep out of any danger. Alpha have had a terrible week, says Serious Mushroom there. Well, they're not too far away from the points at this stage. Dopey Lemon's there P12, and Dylan there is only 1.4 seconds behind Kamara Racer. 1.5 seconds now, I suppose you could say. Yeah, he is they're not too far off the points, I should say, at this stage. So it could come back to them. There's still more than half the race to go as he walks up himself past Gordo. There's a yellow flag. Is it for Gordo? Gordo's had a problem into the second chicane, and now V Todd is through as well into Toza. And up the hill we go, and unfortunately for Gordo there, that great qualifying is not materialising in the race as it stands at the moment. There's still plenty of laps to go. We're only about a third of the way through at this stage. So there is still plenty of laps to go for Gordo, for Mr. Elite to get themselves back in this race. Collins there in the back of the order there. Unfortunately, Collins is struggling there in these wet conditions, unfortunately for him as well. Brabbit has caught up. Brabbit has caught up to Tango now for the race lead. And the gap was over 2 seconds, but it's now down to 0.3 of a second. And here comes Brabbit there into turn 1. Can he make any moves? Nadim's got the fastest lap of the race, but he's 8 seconds behind this pair. And into the first chicane, and no moves being made for the time being there. Brabbit has to sit in behind that Aston Martin. Kamara races, that's the fastest lap of the race. That's good stuff from me. Here comes Beast on the back of his teammate. Almost contact there. We didn't want to see a George Russell and George Russell and Bottas, wasn't it? Into turn, not even into turn 1, was it? It was on the straight, really, wasn't it? That incident there back in 2020, I think it was, wasn't it? Or 2021. But here comes Ewok there, getting himself past his teammate. Sweem JP is really having a problem here. He's down to 16th place from P5 after. Well, nothing really. He's not had a difficult start to the race. He's just had no pace. Unfortunately for us, off the circuit goes Young Lights there at the exit of Toza up the hill, and Kamara Razor's got himself through as well for P9. So Ultimate Beast there gets hold of P8. They're good stuff from Ultimate Beast. He's on for a good charge as well, indeed, because if he's coming from the back of the grid, he could be on for a drive of the day performance as well. He can get some good points, can get some good positions as well. Not all over just yet there for Beast. They're looking good indeed so far in this Grand Prix. Great call by Tango, says Potstuff as well. Collins has retired from the session. As we've said that, what's happened to Tango as well? Tango there, we had just had a comment from Potstuff saying great call on the strategy there, but the safety car is out, and that is interesting stuff indeed. Collins is out of the Grand Prix. He's the first retirement, the only retirement so far. We didn't see what happened, but we were just trying to get ourselves. I was trying to read the comments, so I looked down and then I looked back up, and there's a safety car. So there we go. Then safety car is out. It's collected the 2 race leaders already. They had an 8-second gap there to Nadim, which is unfortunately going to cost them now. They're going to lose that time, of course. Into the pits comes Ultimate Beast there. He's in for the hard compound tyre. Not sure about that one then, but it's still raining on my screen, sir. But there we go. Dylan onto the medium compound tyre. So maybe the conditions are changing. We've gone from wet compound tyres in the first few laps there to potentially dry compound tyres before the halfway stage, and that would be one hell of a entertainment if that is the correct call. But there we go. Yeah, definitely dry tyres there for the drivers in the pit lane. Hard compound tyres are Beast for Craigar and for Irvine. And the pit stops there for Dylan as well, and Ewok there onto the medium compound tyres. So that is going to be very interesting stuff indeed. Will they be? I'm not sure they're going to be on the pace, especially after this. When they come out of the pit lane, that is. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out, because those tyres are going to be horrible in this first lap, especially when trying to get them warmed up as well. Right then. So we've got some drivers there going for the dry compound, and some staying out on inters, some going back onto inters as well. The likes of Gordo and Mr. Elite are both pitted for intermediate compound tyres. Mr. Elite, I think, he served his penalty there, his 5-second penalty anyway. He had a 5 second of speeding in the pit lane, didn't he? But he has got that out of the way. Now can catch up to the back of the queue. So this has saved Mr. Elite there, because he was flying around quite far down the order, of course, after having to make that unscheduled stop after the first lap there. But yeah, he's got himself back in the order now. Well, hopefully he can get himself back in the order at least. But now, what are we going to see here? Are we going to see the top 10 pit for dry compound tyres as well? Brabbit stays out, Tango stays out. Any other Hash drivers coming in? Jinner is coming into the pit lane. So there is some strategy calls there coming from the drivers there. Far from Munford stay out, so does Reflection and Kamara Racer. Dopey Lemon stays out on the intermediate compound tyres, and V-Todd stays out as well up into the points now is V-Todd. Good stuff from him. Ultimate Beast stays out. Mumford has left the session. We need to get Mumford back in the session, please, because Mumford needs to take the restart of this Grand Prix. Dylan there is in P11 now on those tyres. Ultimate Beast has come out on the hard compound tyres. Where is the rest of the order? Jinner there onto the hards as well, but he's going to be dropping down the order now. Of course, he did have one lap behind the safety car technically, because that would have slowed him down compared to those who already pitted in the opening lap there for opening lap with the safety car. That is, V-Todd is into P9. Then he's the lowest of the intermediate runners at the moment, apart from Young Lights, who's gone onto the intermediate compound tyres again. And Mr. Elite, who's coming in the pit lane. No, sorry, Scordo is coming in the pit lane now onto the medium compound tyre. So that is interesting stuff indeed. It's still, I don't know if it is raining now. It seems like the rain has stopped, so this could be a great call indeed from the 8 or so drivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's 8 drivers there onto the dry compound tyres. That is, safety car is still out there as it tries to collect the rest of the grid. But those who have pitted might be on for a masterstroke here. This is going to be one hell of an epic strategy call there if they get it right. And could they have got it right as well? It could be close. I think all safety car is in this lap. Gordon needs to get a hustle on now to try and catch up. But nonetheless, I think we might see some pit stops from the safety car restart even here. Let's have a look and see what Brabbitt is going to do. He's going to have to try and take us away there on this restart now. Gordon needs to try and catch himself up as well. Same for the likes of SwimJP there, who is unfortunately having a bit of trouble there, it looks like, trying to get himself onto the back of the safety car queue. And the safety car is going to be coming in. Here comes Tango into the pit lane. Brabbitt gets ourselves back on underway. That is, Nadeem into underway as well. Here comes Farf, Jinner, Mumford and Reflection into the pit lane. Goes Tango. Kamara Racer gonna have to double stack behind his teammate. There is Kamara Racer, unfortunately for him. Dopey Lemons is back in the pits, and so is Young Lights. So there is some interesting calls there indeed. Gordo didn't catch up to the back of the queue, unfortunately for Gordo. He's too far back there, but he's going to get himself some positions anyway. With those drivers there having to pit there onto the dry compound tyres. Mr. Elite has stayed out there on the intermediate compound tyres. That is not going to be news for him. Mumford's up to P3 past Farf there into Tozer and up into P3 into the podium places there for the AlphaTauri. Of course, with that penalty, that will demote him out of the order. Reflection's got himself past Farf as well. What's happened to Farf there? He's had some issues in the Alpine there, coming through now into Sector 2. And he's trying to get himself down around the outside there in Aqua Minerale. I wouldn't go for it there. One hell of a place to try and do a side-by-side move. But he has thought wisely and thought twice about it there. V-Todd up into P6 there. Great stuff indeed. I think the intermediates might have held on just enough off the restart of that race because, of course, it's still a bit wet on the track, isn't it? But those hard runners will soon to be all over the back of the Alpine there. And here comes Olden Beast there. Could be on for a podium place or even a win here if he gets this, because he's got the strategy perfectly on point so far, it seems, that is, for the Ferrari driver. Good stuff indeed. Into the pits comes more drivers there. Brabbitt into the pit has got the fastest lap, although I should say. Nadeem in the pit lane. There's more drivers in the pit lane. Dylan up into P5 there, all over the back of Farf now. I think this is it. We can see that the dry compound tyres are now the best tyre, I think. Here we go. We've switched over already. We're on the halfway point of this race. We've had wets, intermediates and dries. Oh, and Brabbitt off. There was Reflection off the circuit. They're coming back on, and he's lost out, and he's off into the wall. There is Reflection. Unfortunately, this is all coming undone for the Mercedes driver. It is a yellow flag. And he's what's happening here? So nothing happening there. Okay, interesting stuff. Good stuff indeed. Craig R has got himself past V-Todd. These hard compound tyres, the dry compounds, are the best tyre, and it has switched over on lap 16 here. We did see that restart. I think the restart might have just been within the favour of the intermediates, but now it's definitely switched there. The track looks completely dry already, and Jinner up into P5 there. Good stuff from him. V-Todd is struggling there. Where's Farf gone? Farf is where is Farf? He's down into P14. He's onto the he has pit onto the hard compound tyres. V-Todd had to stay out because his teammate was in the pit lane. That's why V-Todd is struggling out on those tyres right now. Can he get himself to the pit lane there to get himself into the onto the dry compounds? Brabbitt is going to have to surely pit as well. He's into the pit lane now, but this could be his race lead, his race win potentially gone here as Beast there takes the lead of the Grand Prix into the second half of the race. That is, DRS I think will probably be enabled if it hasn't been enabled just yet, but Dylan there sets the fastest lap of the race there. Craig R up into P3. Fantastic stuff for Craig R as well on those hard compound tyres. Let's have a look and see down the order. Brabbitt is going to come out outside the top 10, I think. Same for V-Todd and Reflection. Reflection having to double stack behind his teammate as Tango sets the fastest lap of the race, but Tango now is only going to be P10. He's going to be P9 I should say, ahead of Brabbitt. Brabbitt comes out the pit lane behind Nadeem now, and these three were the race leaders in the opening stages of the Grand Prix, but now they're down. They're battling for the edges of the points at this stage, and that is what's happened here in this Grand Prix. It's been absolutely chaos. It's all over the place there in terms of the weather conditions, that is, for the drivers. Then they unfortunately some have made the wrong call, I think, staying out on the intermediate compound tyres there. Even when the safety car came in, there was a few drivers who stayed out for a little bit longer. Unfortunately for them, that's cost them dearly there at this stage of the Grand Prix, that is. Of course, it could come back to them later on, especially with the younger tyres as well. We might be able to see some of the medium runners get to the end, and some others have to make a pit stop potentially. We'll have to wait and see. but here comes Beast there. He's under pressure there. He's taking the lead of the Grand Prix comfortably indeed. He didn't have to do much overtaking to do it as well, after all the drivers there peeled into the pit lane to get rid of their intermediate compound tyres after he'd pit under the safety car for the dries. But here comes Dylan. And DRS has been enabled as well. Now DRS there for Dylan in the background there, but not enough power to get himself through. Irvine's got himself past into P4 there ahead of Ginner now. And Gordo sets the fastest lap of the race. Sweet MJP's got himself, this is going to be perfect. Has Sweet MJP got a dry setup on, and has he now calculated it perfectly to get himself to the end of this Grand Prix and get himself back in the places, back in the position, back in the pace where we saw him in qualifying. This could be a masterstroke here from Sweet MJP there. He planned the strategy to a T, and he's back up into P6 now as well, ahead of his teammate of Ewok, who's done a good job there of getting himself through the field from P16 on the grid. But Swim JP there has done a great job indeed, especially if he's got that dry setup on now. He's going to be much faster than the drivers around him and ahead of him as well, and could potentially pull himself back into the realms of a podium here as well, potentially. There is still time on the cards there for Sweet MJP. Good stuff indeed. And now here is the battle for the race lead there. Dylan there is on the medium compound tyres. Beast ahead in P1 is on the hard compound tyres, but Dylan is going to have DRS there down the main straight as we come through the second reverse of the final corner for the 18th time. And now DRS is open there on the Alfa Romeo, and away we go down the main straight. Sorry, my voice is going again. It seems to be picking and choosing its time. Here comes Dylan there. He takes the lead there ahead of the Ferrari there into turn one. And I think Beast there just wisely backing off there. He knows that the faster tyres are on that Alfa Romeo for the time being, that is anyway. And he just needs to stick with the Alfa Romeo and then hold on to that DRS window. Craig R in P4, comfortable at the moment. He's over a second ahead of Craig R in P3. He's over a second ahead of P4 of Irvine for the time being. Irvine got himself past Ginner there into P4. Ginner there struggling through Tozer as well, trying to get that car corrected there on the curbs there on the inside. It's not where you want to be, especially if they're a bit wet still. And Swim JP there into P6 there for the time being. Let's have a look and see further down the order. There's some battles here for Young Lights, for Mumford, for Kamara Racer there. These guys unfortunately didn't get the strategy right there under the safety car, and that has cost them dearly at this stage. They're out of the points there as it stands. They're not looking good at this stage of the Grand Prix. Dopey Lemons has had another problem, unfortunately, for Dopey Lemons. He's back onto another set of medium compound tyres. Reflection, we saw have the struggles into on the final lap of the intermediate compound tyres, really, wasn't it? When the conditions completely changed to the dry track. Reflection had those issues through the second chicane, and unfortunately cost him a bit of wing damage, I think, as well. Irvine now is within DRS range of Craig R. Craig R's dropped off the back by 2 seconds now, behind the top two. And here comes Beast there into turn one. He's decided to bide his time. He's decided to sit behind the Alfa Romeo for another lap at least. So there we go. Irvine couldn't get past the Alpha Tauri, and that is status quo for the time being there for those two. But they're pulling away from Ginner at this stage of the Grand Prix as well. Ginner might have had a bit more of a wet setup on. Maybe he made a mistake there on that last lap, but potentially can get himself back into the realms of a podium here as well. Brabbit is trying to get himself into the points at this stage of the Grand Prix. He was, of course, leading the race for a large majority under the wet conditions, but now it's changed to the dries, and he's trying to get himself back into the top 10. That is, and unfortunately for Rabbit, the strategy call there didn't work out. He stayed out a bit too long, I think, as well on those intermediate compound tyres, which is a big shame because he was looking good indeed for some good points for the Mercedes, but you can still get some good points for the Mercedes as well. He is 0.2 of a second behind the Dean there in P10. Dopey Lemon sets the fastest lap of the race there. That could of course come back in his favour because of course you get the fastest lap point regardless of which place you finish in the Grand Prix. At the moment only one DNF, and I've commentator cursed it probably now, but only one DNF so far in this Grand Prix, and that was Collins there that caused the safety car that was right at the end of the intermediate to dry conditions. And here we go. Oh, sorry, I completely missed it as well. Dylan has lost the lead there, back again in comes Beast, I should say, and Irvine there up into P3. Can he get himself on the podium? He can, and that is good stuff from the McLaren. Again, one McLaren doing a great job of getting himself through the order from the back of the grid, and the same for the Ferrari as well. Beast there, both started from the back of the grid. We'll have to look and see what positions they were exactly as Brabbit gets himself past the Haas reserve there of Nadine into turn one. But yellow flags, we have got yellow flags. There is a problem for Young Lights there on the main straight, and Kamara Racer got a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Young Lights somehow. But of course, Camaro Racer can get that removed if it is, of course, necessary. But virtual safety car has been brought out there. Young Lights has lost his front wing completely, and that is not looking good there for the Ferrari driver. He's going to have to come to the pit lane there and sort that out. But that is a VSC. We're going to just look at the position changes. 18 places there for Beast, 17 for Irvine. Looking great indeed there for those two. And Craig R has done a good job as well, I have to say, from P13 on the grid as well. So my candidates there for driver of the day, quite easy to spot, I suppose you could say. Dylan's done a good job, to be fair, from him as well. After a difficult qualifying for the Alfa Romeo outfit, he's got himself up 6 places there, currently on the podium places for now. But right then, VSC is out. Will the mediums last this long, says Pot Stuff as well. I'm not quite sure, because we did pit, what was it? We pitted on, some of them pitted on sort of lap 12, lap 13. I'm not sure. They're going to have to do 20 laps or so on those medium compact tyres. Will they get to the end is the question. SwimGP is back in the pit lane already under the VSC, so maybe there's some interesting calls here coming from the Williams driver onto the soft compact tyres potentially. The VSC is gone, and we are back underway, so SwimGP is going to lose out a lot of time here. There's no wing change, so it is a strategy call there for the Williams driver. Interesting stuff indeed. It's going to lose out quite a lot of places as well now, as here comes Camaro Racer there up into P13. Vito's going to get through as well. Young Light's got a 5-second over speed in the pit lane. And that is bad news bears indeed for Young Lights, unfortunately. SwimGP coming out in P16. He's going to be right down the back of the order now. And he's going to be very slowly indeed as well off the out of pit lane as well. I'm not quite sure if there's another technical issue there for the Williams driver, which is a big shame indeed if that is the case. Farf and Mumford battling away through Tozer, and once again Farf getting the elbows out and getting himself past Mumford there into P11. He's 4 seconds off the top 10 as it stands for Farf, as he picked up a 3-second penalty there for his troubles. Good stuff indeed. 20 laps on Med's going to be tough. Pitch didn't change your wing. Well, it looked like they should have changed your wing. It didn't look like there was any front wing on that Ferrari at all. But yeah, oh well, we're going to have to get himself back in the pit lane as well once again. But battle for the race lead there is between Dylan and Beast. 2 seconds back to P3 there with Irvine, and unfortunately for Craig, he's dropped off the back there of the McLaren as well. So he's not within DRS range. He's outside of DRS range there, Gino, though, which is good news because he's not being attacked by anybody, but he's not doing any attacking himself. About attacking, Dylan is all over the back here of the Ferrari there. Into Tozer we go, and he's really pushing that Ferrari to the limit there, I think, as well, in that P2 position for the time being. He's trying to get himself as far through as possible. Mumford's got himself back past Farf there into turn 1 we go. Young Light's got a 3-second penalty for speeding in the pit, not speeding in the pit lane, for multiple warnings I should say, as Reflection gets himself past Sweet MJP. What has happened to Sweet MJP here? He's made this stop that I think wasn't necessary for the Williams driver, and now he's not having the advantage that you would think he would. Dylan and Beast have switched places there up the hill, so it must have been a mistake there from the Ferrari driver there through Aqua Minerale, and now Beast there slots him behind the Alfa Romeo there, but this is going to give him an advantage there down towards turn 1, because he will have the DRS now on the Alfa Romeo, not the other way around. Into the second Ravazza to finish off lap 23. We've only got how many we've got? We've got 9 laps to go after this one, and there we go then. Although Dylan's pulled out a gap already, look at that. He's got almost a 7/10 of a second gap there to the Beast. But here comes the Beast there in the Ferrari. He's backing off there. He has to stay behind for the time being, but Chris is bringing Craig R and Irvine back into the battle as well. Nadim's got a 3-second penalty for not speeding in the pit lane. I keep saying that for some reason, but he's got a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Gordo up into P6. Great stuff indeed from Gordo, getting himself past Ewok there. Brabbit up into P8 as well, getting himself past Tango, and Tango there. Oh, Tango, Brabbit and Nadim, of course, we did, like we were saying earlier, well, of course, the top 3 in the order in the wet conditions, and unfortunately, the strategy's just not gone their way. The conditions have not gone their way as well, but there's still time in this race to get themselves up the order, further up the order there with the penalty situation for the drivers ahead of him as well, and of course, with some speed, which is also helpful. But here comes some speed there from Beast there. Can he get himself back in the lead of the Grand Prix? Mr. Elite picks up a penalty. That's unfortunate for Mr. Elite. He's having a bit of trouble there down the back of the order there after a good qualifying for both the Red Bulls, but they were in the mid-pack, weren't they? And I think that's going to be very costly, especially after those wet conditions of the start. So there's going to be drivers all around you, all over the place. But there we go. into the second Ravazza now for the 24th time. And here comes Beast again, but he's again losing time there to Dylan there on the exit of the final corner, I should say. But now, can he bring that gap back down with the DRS? As here he goes into the not before, not into turn one. He's well ahead before turn one and up into the lead of the race once again there for Beast. Great stuff indeed there, and takes control of the lead. Irvine almost on the edge of the DRS zone here for the McLaren driver. Could he get himself into that 1 second window? And that would be really helpful for him to secure a podium potentially here. He's got a penalty added to his race time as well. That is 3 seconds for him. Ginner's got 6 seconds, but he's currently 7 seconds ahead of Gordo in P6, which was not going to be too bad for Ginner because, of course, the penalties we added onto their race time at the end. So, of course, if you've got enough of a gap to serve your penalty, then it will just be added onto your race time, and that will be it. But, of course, if there's people within that penalty time, then it will be demoting you down a few places depending on where you are on the in the order. Craigar's got himself within the 1 second window now of Irvine. Irvine needs to get himself within the 1 second window of the top two, and through the I thought that was a penalty for Irvine there, but it's Sweet MJP picking up the penalty unfortunately in 17th. Not gone well for Sweet MJP this race, unfortunately for him. He's having struggles, and I'm not quite sure what the struggles are really, because he's pitted for the extra grip, the extra speed there of the fresh medium compound tyres, but it's just not materialised unfortunately for the Williams driver. Here comes Dylan back again now. Can he get himself back in the lead of the Grand Prix? But there's so much pace there in that Ferrari. He's got himself... He was actually increasing the gap at one point on that straight. was Beast there. Fantastic stuff. Potentially, we might start to see some drop off there from the medium compound tyres. We've had some chatter in the comments there from Pot Stuff and from Mushroom, thinking that the medium compound tyres might not be able to make it 20 laps or so, which they've got to do, I think, if they want to make it to the end. And we saw Pot Stuff, Pot Stuff, he's not racing tonight, Pot Stuff, but Sweet MJP pitting for a fresh set of mediums when that VSC came out, but unfortunately it's not worked out for him. V-Todd's got himself up into P13 ahead of Kamara Racer now, and right behind his teammate of Farf, as well as we've got some battles here for Sweet MJP now. He has got himself on the pace now, getting himself back past Reflection there for P16. But yeah, the Alpines there battling away for the edge of the points, I suppose you could say. Mumford there in P11 there is the head of this train, but he's got a 5 second gap there to the top 10, so it's going to be quite a struggle indeed to try and get yourself through and into the realms of the top 10 at this stage of the Grand Prix. Back out front, this is the battle. This is the closest battle on track as well, and this is one hell of a battle because it's been going on for the last few laps at least. And here comes Dylan once again now round the second Ravazza, and of course he has that extra grip and extra speed, I think, around that second Ravazza compared to the Ferrari. But does he have the straight line speed? And I think that's where he's falling behind. There is Dylan there in the Alfa Romeo. There he just doesn't have the straight line speed, even with the DRS there, to get himself within that window, to get himself past the Ferrari into turn one. But can he get himself through there with the extra downforce there further on in the lap? That is the question. And now into the second chicane. Here comes the Alfa Romeo once again on the attack there. But again, he's going to run out of time, I think, run out of laps there and run out of tyres eventually, because now Irvine on the hard compound tyres has got himself within that 1 second window of this battle here, and could potentially be looking for a P2 in this race, maybe even the race win. We'll have to wait and see. Beast has got himself a penalty. There's penalties for the top 3 of 3 seconds. Craigar is, let's have a look at Craigar. He's 3.1 seconds. If he can get himself that 2/10, Craigar could be on for a fantastic win here as well. This could be fantastic if Craigar can do that, hold on to that gap there for Craigar and get yourself back in with that back in that realm, and potentially for a race win as well. But unfortunately for Craigar, he's dropping off the order. This is not what he wants to. He wants to be going the other way, not that way. But now he's under pressure actually from Jenner, unfortunately, rather than the other way around there. This battle is going to resume. Here we go then. Now it's a three-way battle almost, as Irvine is in that 1 second window as well. That DRS is available now for the McLaren. Here comes Dylan though with the advantage there in P2, right behind the Ferrari there into turn one. Can he make a late move? He's too far back, unfortunately. This time, once again, he has to sit behind that Ferrari. That diffuser is going to be very familiar there to the Alfa Romeo driver of Dylan at the end of this Grand Prix. Brabbett's got himself past Ewok there for P7 there. Brabbett trying to recover in this Grand Prix and has got himself into P7, just ahead now of the Williams driver. But one of the Williams of Ewok is doing a good job there after starting P16 on the grid. he can now slot himself in. And I think the tyres are potentially the factor in that move as well, because 15 laps there for Ewok there, only 11 laps there for Brabbit. So like I said, always off the circuit goes Gordo. Gordo's had a problem there at the exit of Tozer. He's got himself back underway, and that has well, that's going to entice Brabbit indeed. But unfortunately for Gordo, that could have cost him potentially that P6 if Brabbit has got enough pace in the car and there's pace in those tyres, especially with the extra life in those tyres as well, to get himself back into the into P6. That is Gino there all over the back now. Craig are the top three are now separated by about 0.8 of a second. Irvine has caught up to this battle nicely indeed, and now is going to be brought along or dragged along there with the DRS as well down the main straight. But here comes Dylan again. Can Dylan make the move this time? We're on to lap 29. I thought we were lap 30. Lap 29 there for Dylan as we go down the main straight once again there. But again, Beast has got the pace. He's harvesting some ERS there at the end of that straight as well. But he's got the pace indeed to contain Dylan there with the DRS even for the Alfa Romeo. But yeah, that is I think coming down to the tyre wear as well, because of course these tyres are going to be doing one. It's gone wide there as Beast, and that could open the door now as Young Lights has retired. Where's he retired? In the pit lane there. What's happened there for Dylan? He's had a spin there. I think maybe there might be some contact there from Irvine there. That could be crucial in this race, and I hope there wasn't contact there, because that would I think there was, unfortunately, because he's lost time there as Irvine as well. I was hoping there wasn't contact there, because that could be a penalty there coming Irvine's way at the end of this Grand Prix. But that was bad news indeed there for both Dylan and for Irvine as well, if that was the case there. Dylan now down into P5, but he's still going to be holding on to some good points here as well. Here comes Jenner there on the back of Craig R as well. Jenner trying to get himself back up into the podium places, but of course Craig R currently has no penalties. He's not being able to benefit there from the top two's penalties at this stage, I don't think anyway. No, there's only 3 seconds for those drivers. But of course, if Irvine does get a penalty of that for any contact there with Dylan there, potentially that could promote Craig R back up into P2 as well. We'll have to wait and see. But Jenner now is going to be on the attack here as well. Cautions in yellow in sector 2. It's a Williams there going slowly. Sweet MJP though, unfortunately for Sweet MJP, he's not having a great time there in this race. Now Jenner there gets the precedent there. He's up into P3. He's got himself past the AlphaTauri, has he? He has done, and up into P3. They're up into the podium places. They're on track, that is. But of course, there is penalties to be added on there for these drivers. Are on to lap 30. There's only 2.5 laps or so to go. Tango's got himself past Ewok there. Ewok holding on now on those medium compound tyres. Like I said, like you were saying in the comment section, there's 20 laps there on the medium compound tyres for Ewok. Can they hold on is the question. Farf is back in the pit lane. He's gone on the soft compound tyres there. Going for the fastest lap point is a viable option. Of course, Farf's got a lot of penalties and, of course, was outside the top 10 as it stood anyway. So he's going to go for that extra point there rather than just sitting there for 0 points. He's going to go for an extra one and try and get himself and the Alpine outfit an extra point for himself and the standings, that is, as well. Now, back to this battle here. The battle at the top as well, I should say, is going to come back to something, because Irvine is really on a charge here, trying to get himself back within that 1 second window there of Beast. Craig R is under pressure. Well, not under pressure, sorry. He's been passed by Ginner on the last lap there, but he stayed within that DRS range. He stayed within that penalty range as well, is more important, and could get himself back up into P3 on track, that is, as well. Let's have a look and see what Craig R can do. Dylan has joined this battle. He's back on the end of this battle, unfortunately, I should say, after that spin there at Tozer, which I think might have been caused by some contact. Gordo is now under pressure as well for that P6 position from Brabbit. Brabbit trying to recover as well. Here comes Craig R there into turn 1. No moves made there. Let's have a look and see what Brabbit can do. Can he get himself up into P6 there? He can. Past the Red Bull driver there, and Gordo slotting into P7, I should say, for the time being. Ewok's been passed by Nadim as well. Those medium compound tyres on the Williams are just struggling now. I think 18 laps is way too far to push them. He's got to do another 2 laps from here as well. Kamara Racer is into the pit lane as well. That is good stuff indeed for Kamara Racer. I think serving a penalty, but also getting onto the soft compound tyres too. I think he's seen what Farf is up to, and Kamara is going to do the same thing as well. Good stuff from Kamara for staying in the race and not giving up. Irvine's got himself within that 1 second window there of the race leader, and this could be crucial as well for Irvine. Actually, it could save him as well, to be fair. If he's got a penalty impending, he might be able to get himself saved there with some DRS to drag himself along as well. We're going to be on to the final lap of the Grand Prix in just a couple of corners time. It's been an epic race as well. If you just joined us, we started off in full wet conditions. We went to intermediates and we were on dry tyres before the halfway stage of this race. So it has been one hell of a roller coaster of this Grand Prix. Irvine has got himself within 3 tenths. 2 tenths. He's closing the gap there. Here comes Irvine for the race lead there into turn 1 on the final lap of the Grand Prix. He's got the move done. He's up into P1. Has Irvine from the back of the grid. Both these drivers, to be fair, from the back of the grid. Get your driver of the day votes in. Beast and Irvine are definitely your candidates there. Craig R as well has done a grand job indeed. But Irvine takes the race lead there on the final lap of the race into Tozer. He just needs to hold on now and try and get himself to the finish line. I think Beast might be having some deficiencies there with the, especially with the energy. He's really flashing that battery, but so is Irvine as well. Down towards the second sector now as we go down towards Aqua Minerale for the final time here in Imola. And now here we go then. Favre sets the fastest lap of the race there on lap 31 for him. But we're on the final lap for these guys here in Irvine coming through. One more chicane to go and a couple more corners there. 2 more Ravazzas and he can claim this victory here on the track, that is. Penalties might be added on to his time. But let's have a look and see what is going to be the final result here as Irvine there comes down into the first Ravazza. 1 more corner to go there for the McLaren driver from the back of the grid. And here he comes there up to the line. Irvine there is going to claim the race win on track with a fantastic performance indeed. Look at that there. Irvine there is P1. Ultimate Beast in P2. Both with the fantastic drives there. Gino is going to cross the line in P3, but Craig R takes the final podium place with a fantastic drive from him as well. Dylan there does get P4 in the end. Gino into P5 with the penalties added on. I think there might be some more penalties there for Irvine potentially coming in this race, but after this race I should say, but if there was any collision with Dylan there. But Irvine there is your race winner here in Imola with a fantastic drive. We'll have a look at the position changes quickly. I should have shown that before the driver of the day came out, but 19 places again from the back of the grid, the same as we saw from Favre in Miami there, from the back of the grid there. Irvine from P20 to P1. What a fantastic victory here in Imola for the McLaren outfit, and really well raced from Beast as well. I'm losing my words. Well raced from Beast as well, from P17 on the grid as well. But blimey, that was one hell of an epic finish, one hell of an epic Grand Prix, and blimey, that is what silver is all about indeed. And we've seen that in the last 2 races, P20 to P1 on the grid, with one hell of a race indeed. But blimey, these interviews are going to be one hell of an interview as well, I think. But there is the McLaren there on the top step of the podium with a fantastic victory there for Irvine. What a win there for the McLaren outfit. And like I said, from P20 on the grid to P1 is no mean feat, and he had to get through all the conditions, every condition possible in a Grand Prix to get that win as well. Beast there in P2 with a fantastic drive as well, both from the back of the grid like I was saying, but Irvine from P20, Beast there from P17, and Craig R from P13 on the grid. Like I said, it's no mean feat either, to be fair, from Craig R, and he's done a great job indeed of getting himself P3. So well done to Craig R as well. Hats off to him after having no points at the beginning of this race. He's got himself 15, potentially even more in that one Grand Prix. Fantastic stuff indeed from him as well. Dylan in P4, Gino in P5, Brabbit P6, and then recovered back to P6 after that mishap there was the strategy there. Gordo in P7, good points for himself. Tango in P8 there, Ewok in P9, Nadim there in P10, Mumford in P11, V Todd P12, Mr. Elite in P13, Reflection P14, Dope 11's P15, Farf there in P16 with the fastest lap of the race as well after switching to the softs at the end there. Sui MJP there in P17, having a difficult race unfortunately for him. Kamara Racer in P18, Young Lights there in P19, and Collins there, both DNF there in this Grand Prix. God blimey, that was one hell of a Grand Prix, wasn't it? I thoroughly enjoyed that one. We will hopefully get the interviews underway as we'll just jump into the party. I think I've actually been I'm in the wrong thing, aren't I? I think I need to jump into the comms box because I was just commentating for that whole thing without being in the party. But there we go. I think I'll just have to add them in quickly, wasn't it? It was Irvine, Beast, and somebody else. Oh, he's already been added. Perfect stuff. All right then, give me 1 second. Hello there, guys. Can you both hear me?
I can hear you.
Aye.
Good stuff indeed. We'll start with Craig R there, P3 on track. We do think there might be some penalties coming some people's way. Potentially you could get promoted, but how about that for yourself? What a Grand Prix from that difficult qualifying. It looked like you struggled in the qualifying. Was there any issues in the dry for that opening first 18 minutes?
No, not really. It's still having issues. Just didn't really expect what was to come. Didn't expect the wet weather to come in the qualifying. I did struggle a wee bit, but I wasn't too disappointed with the lap that I put in.
Well, it wasn't the best qualifying performance we've seen from you as well, but it didn't matter in the end because in the race was where the points, of course, are scored. And what was your thoughts when you did start when you loaded in and you did see it was wet conditions or wet tires to start the race?
I'm not gonna lie, wasn't too sure on the wet tyres, to be fair. So I kind of just got the heat down and went hell for leather.
It paid off in the end because I think you made it. Well, it wasn't just the wet tire pace, but wet running pace that you had, but it was the strategy calls there that you made as well. In that safety car period, you chose to go on to the hard compound tire when it was still raining on track. To be fair, and I was saying I wasn't sure whether it was the right call, but it was definitely the right call in the end. And you are the master of the strategy.
I mean, I did see this track was starting to clear up. The rain wasn't as bad, so I kind of is either like stuck in the inters or brave it and go for the hards. So I kind of braved and went for the hards, and it kind of paid off eventually, which I'm glad.
It was a fantastic call indeed, and of course that got you the podium in the end. Did you think you might have been on track for a bit of a better result than P3, or did you think I was going to have to try and settle? I say settle for a podium, but it's no mean feat, to be fair, especially from P13 on the grid. What did you think towards the end of that Grand Prix? Did you think you were going to have to just wait and see what the penalties were going to throw up?
Well, to be fair, I wasn't trying to push as hard as I could. I was just keeping a good, consistent pace to try not to drop too far back from the folk with penalties and try not to make any mistakes from there. But it was not too bad.
No, it was cracking stuff indeed, and congratulations to you there. I think your first points of the season there and a podium, so it can't be too bad, can it?
Oh, mate, I'm absolutely buzzing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I need it.
You can go and celebrate on a lovely Monday night. There you go. No, congratulations to Craig R there. Beast is P2 there from P17 on the grid. Firstly, what did you think about the wet conditions at the beginning then?
Yeah, so obviously I had that quaddy ban, so I just didn't care really what if it was raining, dry. I'm easy because it didn't make any difference to me really. But I always enjoyed the wet, so I thought maybe at least points would be a good result, but I didn't expect a podium, to be fair.
Well, it was a cracking drive. Well, to be fair, I could say that for all three of you in here. You well deserved the podiums, of course. But a cracking drive from yourself as well, from P17 on the grid. And again, you made the right call there under the safety car when it was still raining to go onto the hard. Was it the hard compound tires you went on, or the medium compound tires? I completely forgot.
Hard.
It was the hards. Good stuff. Yeah, so you went onto the hard compound tires there. And it really paid off for you as well. You got through the order as well, especially with lots staying out on the intermediate compound tyres. And did you know at that stage that you made the right call, or did you have to wait a few laps there before the rest of the runners did pit there to make sure that you were going to be guaranteed almost a podium as well?
After the safety car came in, I thought this could be a really good result, to be fair. And then they still didn't box. A few of them didn't box after a couple of laps. I was like, okay, I don't know what these guys are doing, but I think P5 at least.
Well, it was still a good result there, and your P5 at best was definitely on the cards because you went and smashed that target as well. So well done to you, and well deserved once again there for yourself getting yourself on the podium, back again there in the familiar podium that we've seen from you from last season as well. So good stuff from you, but hopefully we can crack on and get some more as well. We'll have to wait and see. Irvine there in P1. I can't. We had an interview with Farf last week from P20 to P1 on the grid in Miami, and literally the next week we've got another P20 to P1 there from the McLaren driver of Irvine. There, what a race from yourself! Was there anything that went wrong in that race for you?
The start and then the end.
Oh right, okay. There was 2 bad points, was there? All right, I see.
Yeah, I should be happy that I came from last to first, but I feel gutted for taking out Dylan because it could have been an epic 3-way battle for the lead.
So there was contact there. Was there at Tozer
Yeah,
on the last few
yeah.
laps?
For some reason, whenever I'm behind a car, I brake early, but the car doesn't want to stop, and I end up tagging people. It's happened for numerous weeks now, so yeah, another 5-second penalty coming my way by the looks of it.
Well, you should still be able to hang on to a podium place. I think so. There's still some good points on offer for you. But yeah, unfortunate scenes there then in that case. But we did think that there might have been a bit of contact. We weren't sure what happened there exactly on the stream. But still, nonetheless, from P20 to P3, I suppose you could say. In that case, it's still not a bad race for yourself. Just fantastic stuff indeed. I can't put it into words how much you've done a fantastic job there. To be fair. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do in the next race, which of course is Spain, I think. Yeah. So what's your thoughts there for Spain? We'll have a quick recap on the next preview of the next round, I suppose.
I hate Spain.
All right, that's promising. There we go then. I think that'll wrap
but the
it up.
tracks I hate, I tend to do well at. So there's a bit of promise there.
No, that's all good then. Well, hopefully we'll have some more podium interviews with you guys in the near future, potentially next week as well. But what a cracking race it has been there from P20 to P1 there for Irvine on the top step of the grid. Fantastic stuff indeed. Beast there in P2 from P17 and Craig R P3 from P13. Absolutely epic scenes here in Silver. What a race it was indeed. Stay tuned and watch that back for sure if you haven't already. Got it going again. But yeah, I think I'm going to be watching them back on repeat for quite a few seasons to come as one of the best races we've seen in Silver as well. So cracking stuff indeed. Looking forward to next week where it's going to be even better as well. But of course, Bronze is on tomorrow night. We've got Bronze here in Imola as well from 7:30, and then Wednesday is the F2 division here in Imola also for the sprint event. So stay tuned to ALR. There's plenty more action coming up, and we'll see you very soon.